Hi everyone, it's Tox from critshappen.com. Thanks for watching and welcome back. Today we're going to do a critical preview of a game called Incredibrawl. Now I don't know about you, but when I was a kid I dreamed of being multiple different types of characters. I dreamed of being ninjas, I dreamed of being cowboys, I dreamed of being superheroes. The superhero didn't work out so well. That is, unless I'm Bald Man, which if that's the case, watch out on sunny days because I can blind you from miles away with my superpower. However, I have had some upgrades recently. One of which is Incredibrawl. Incredibrawl is going to see us taking on the parts of ninjas, cowboys, magicians, yes, magicians, zombies, Amazons, all different types of characters in the hopes of fighting our opponents off inside of arenas and gaining glory. This is a 2 to 4 player game that's about to be launched on Kickstarter. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes to play and is recommended for ages 10 and up. Although later on when we talk about our experiences, we'll tell you about playing with some younger crowds and what they thought as well. But for now, let's jump into this wild and crazy world of Incredibrawl. The two things you need to know going in are scraps and brawls. Scraps are individual fights and brawls are multiple scraps put together. Now, grab your ninja sword, get your Amazon gear and your spears, and let's jump in to Incredibrawl. So, before we get talking about how to play Incredibrawl, let's look at the two different types of cards and the three different types of abilities that could be on your characters. The first thing to note are going to be abilities, and abilities are always going to have an exclamation point on them. They will always tell you when and how you can use them and when to play them. So for example, the Achilles heel, which is a really comical picture of a pirate with an arrow shot through his peg leg. It says you may play this card anytime after characters have been revealed. Reduce any character's power level to 1. Well, what does that mean? Why is it important? Well, for right now, just know that these cards are going to tell you when you can play them throughout gameplay. Then let's take a look at the characters. The characters have different chevrons in the upper right. There is purple for physical, there is green for nature, and there is blue or light blue for energy. Then they're all going to have a come into play ability, which is a P, a win ability, which is if you win your scrap, or a loss ability if you lose. And depending on who you're playing in a 2 or 4 player game is going to determine how that all ranks out. So how do you actually play Incredibrawl? Well, let's take a look. So here you see the setup for a 2-player game of Incredibrawl. Each player starts the game with 1 glory. You'll shuffle your deck, you'll draw 5 cards, then there's a location deck that is shuffled and the grassy meadow always goes on top. The grassy meadow does not have any effects, but that's the arena or the area that you're going to be battling in. Now, the first thing to note when you're playing is it's very easy to see what type of cards you have just by looking in the lower left. So for example, I can look here and see I have 3 characters and 2 abilities because I know I have 2 abilities due to the exclamation points. And I have a come into play character and 2 characters that will help me get with abilities if I win because they have the W on it. Now, for the purposes of this, I'm leaving the cards face up so you can take a look at them, but normally these would be face down and hidden away from your opponents. In a 2-player game, it's fairly easy. Each player is going to select a character. You're going to reveal characters simultaneously, so you don't reveal until everyone's selected a character. So let's presume I wanted to play this spaceman as my character. I would place him face down in front of the grassy meadow. And then let's presume that our opponent played the samurai and he was face down on his side by the meadow. After both players have had a chance to choose their characters, they're going to flip them over at the same time. Now, in a 3 and 4 player game, this is much different, but right now, let's talk about 2 players. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to look at the chevrons, and in this case, the energy beats the physical. Now, you'll notice that there's also numbers. For example, the spaceman has an 8 and the samurai has an 8. That's used to determine tie breaks. Now, in this case, this is just like rock, paper, scissors. The blue beats the purple, so the spaceman is going to win. And Spaceman says for his win ability, gain 1 bonus glory from the pool. Each opponent then discards 1 card. Now, I would gain 1 glory for winning the scrap and this brawl at the grassy meadow. Then I would gain a bonus 1 because I have the win ability, and then my opponent would have to choose and discard a card. So he would choose and discard, let's say, this ability card right here. Now, both of our characters would go to discard piles, and I would be winning the game 3-1. The winner then gets to choose, do they want to stay at the grassy meadow or do they want to move on to another location? So in this case, if I chose to move on, we would discard the grassy meadow and the Ancient Colosseum would come up. The Ancient Colosseum says physically powered characters that win gain 1 bonus glory. Now, the first thing that I said to myself when I was playing this game is, wait a minute, how do I know who's a physically powered hero? There's nothing on the cards that mark them as such. Well, the first thing we noticed is some of the backgrounds fit with some of these areas. But this is designed to be a very fun, very casual, very light game. So one of the things in the rulebook that they actually encourage you to do is to argue what is what type of character. So if I wanted to have my spaceman at this area and say, hey, he's physically powered, he is a strong, capable spaceman, it would be up to the players involved to go ahead and choose that. Now, if you don't like that kind of openness or looseness, there is an FAQ on Vision 3's website, and I believe they may actually be putting this in the rule book. I'm not sure. But either way, there are rules that you can find online on their site that'll show you which characters are which. It does make for some quite interesting arguments as you get going through with this style gameplay. Now, from here, at the end of the turn, we would each draw 1 card from our deck, and we would move on. Now, you may be saying to yourself, what do you do if you don't have a character to play? Well, if that's the case, you're able to reveal your hand and show that you only have abilities or no cards and that you're drawing to get a character. There is a variant that we have played where at the end of the turn you draw 2 cards that can kind of speed the game along a little bit and sometimes, in all honesty, cause a runaway win, but there are some options involved in how you want to handle drawing cards. But the rules tell you to draw 1 card and move forward from there. So, in this case, we're in the Ancient Colosseum, and I'm going to look at my hand here, and maybe I decide I want to play my Leprechaun. He has an ability that says flip a coin for this round. Heads, lowest power level wins any ties, and tails, reverse the power order. So I would have to have a coin or maybe a die or something nearby. And then I have a soldier, and let's say I want to play the soldier because I really want to try and win here. He has a win ability. It says each opponent immediately loses 1 glory. So I'm going to go ahead and play him face down. Now my opponent may get a little tricky over here, and we never know what he's going to do. So we're going to go ahead and play a character face down that you don't know about yet. Now, after all players have gone ahead and chosen characters, they flip over simultaneously. Now, in this case, the zombie, played by my opponent, has a P ability, which is a come into play ability. He says, randomly draw 1 card from your discard pile and add it to your hand, which is great considering there's only 2 cards in my discard pile. So I could shuffle those up and go ahead and get whatever I wanted. Well, get 1 card randomly and put that down and then put that back. Now I know, because I only had 2 cards, I know what I got, which is good. So the zombie's there with a natural power and a number of 3. And then the soldier is here, and he is going to beat the natural power because he has physical power. Remember, purple is physical, which beats green, which is energy, which beats blue, green, which is natural, which beats blue, which is energy, which beats physical, which is purple again. So the soldier is going to go ahead and win, and he says each opponent immediately loses 1 glory. So that when you lose glory, you don't send it to your opponent, you put it back into a main pool. So the soldier, the player that played the soldier, is going to win 1 glory from the pool, and he would have 4. So it's a net swing of 2. The game plays very fast. So now each player is going to go ahead and discard these, and then the winning player decides, do we stay in the Ancient Colosseum or do we move on? Now, in addition, I could make a case to my opponent and say, hey, my soldier is a physically powered person, and if we get to an agreement point, then I may gain another glory as well. So you can imagine there's a lot of debating, a lot of nerdy discussion, a lot of real joking and kind of tongue-in-cheek kind of humor when playing this game. We have actually found that this game is a lot of fun with kids because it gives them reasons to be creative, it gives them reasons to come up with why certain characters would do good at certain places, and just opens up a lot of great discussion points during the game. Now, let's back out for a second and we'll show you a 3 and a 4 player game. So here we see a 4-player game after players have selected their characters for this brawl. There's 2 ways that you can choose when you're playing in a 4 or 3-player game how to decide the layout. You can play it as simple as this player will always play in front of them, as will all the other players, and they will combat the people across from them when they're scrapping. The other option is you can have a first player marker that will rotate around the game, around the table, and the first player gets to choose what area he puts his character. So if I was the first player with this robot, I could potentially put it over here to fight this person if I wanted to. Now, if I put it over here, someone's still going to fight against me because they're going to put it over there. So it's really just a little bit of a shake-up in terms of not always having to fight the person across from you. Now, there's some key things to remember. Scraps are individual fights. Brawls are the entire brawl. So, in a multiplayer game of 3 or 4 players, win and loss abilities only trigger at the end of the brawl, not the end of the scrap. So let's take a look at what we got here. We have this player with a robot that has a win condition ability. We have a magician, a knight, and a robo shark that all have come into play abilities. So how do you resolve that? Well, on the top right of each card is their character's chevron that shows the physical, nature, or energy power type that they are. In addition, they have a number, which is their power value. And that is what's used to break ties, going from lowest to highest. So in this case, the knight has a physical power of 1, the magician has an energy value of 3, and the robo-shark has a natural value of 4. So the knight has the lowest with 1, the magician will go next with 3, and the robo-shark will go 4th. The knight is very simple. He says to gain an extra glory from the pool. The magician is a little more complex. The magician allows you to take the topmost character from your discard pile and switch it with the magician. So we could take the ninja and put him into play. Now the ninja's come into play ability can trigger as well, which says take up to 2 glory from the player with the most glory. Well, we'll go ahead and take 2 from this player because he's got the most glory. So he comes in and ninja loots the glory from the winning player or the leading player. And then finally the Robo Shark would go off. And the Robo Shark says each opponent randomly discards 1 card. So all 3 of these players would have to discard their cards. Now, the next thing to know is scraps. So let's take the rule that we're going to fight each other as who we're sitting across from. In this case, the ninja has a physical power and the Robo Shark has a natural power. So the ninja is going to win. So the Robo Shark will just get discarded to show that the ninja stays and fights. There's no loss ability from the Robo Shark, so that's perfectly okay to do it that way. Next, we have the knight with a physical power, which beats energy, but the robot has the knight has a physical power which beats natural, but the robot has an energy power which beats physical. So the robot's going to win this one, and he's going to be put into the discard pile. Now that is each individual scraps. The robot's win condition does not trigger yet because he has to win the brawl to get that win condition to go off. So now these 2 players would square off in the final brawl or final scrap of this brawl. The robot has again a energy level and the ninja has a physical level, so the robot is going to win as well. So the robot's win condition then goes off and says choose 1 opponent. That player must randomly select their character for the next round. So if we were playing where we were scrapping across from each other, I would probably want to choose the person who I'm fighting against to randomly have to choose their character for the next round. I would win, so I would get a glory for winning, and then I could choose, do I want to stay in the grassy meadow or do I move on? Now you may ask yourself, how do you do this with 3 players if you're not sitting across from each other? Well, let's say we totally removed a player completely and we had 3 players involved. What you would want to do is you would want to start the game just as normal, but you're going to include a first player token. And there's none that come with the game, but you could use pretty much anything you'd like. Once you determine a first player, that first player gets to choose where they're going to place their character. Now, you're still going to want to have a layout that is symmetrical, or as symmetrical as possible. Because what they would do is they would choose to either play in the middle of the scrap, or they could choose to play off to the side of the main scrap. So in this layout with 2 players across from each other and 1 on the side, if I was the first player with my robot, it may be to my advantage to go ahead and put him up here so that a knight and a ninja may come out from my opponents they have to fight, and then I would fight the final person left in the battle. But because the first player token is going to move, the next player is going to have to be able to make that decision as well, and you're always going to have an option, so one player is not always getting into that side spot or that out area. So that's Incredibrawl. Incredibrawl has been very fun and very fast in our house. We have played 2, 3, and 4 player games, and the nice thing about it is it's very modular for rules. You can play with a very basic, simple set of rules, and in our case, play with as young as 5 and 6-year-old kids, or you can play with a more advanced and complex set of rules and play with 30 and 40-year-olds. We found it fun amongst all play groups. In fact, one of the kids said a comment that really hit home. It's almost like Munchkin and Smash Up had a baby. There's some lighthearted caricature comic feel to the characters, and all of the races and all of the bases make you feel like Smash Up. So if you like either of those games, this might appeal to you as well. It's not the most strategic game you're going to play. It is very tactical, and at its core, it's paper, rock, and scissors with cards that are going to impact and affect the outcome. But it's very fast, it's very easy to learn, the artwork is great, and even though we always like to remind everybody that what you're seeing here doesn't represent the final product of the game if you were to back it, almost all the artwork is done. And you can also see several other cards on their website at vision3games.com. But in the meantime, if this interests you, you can also check them out at their Kickstarter program, which is going to be launching on or around July 8th. We'll have links to it below in the video description and also in the video as overlays as well. In the meantime though, we hope you enjoyed this critical preview. We've had a lot of fun playing Incredibrawl, whether it's been family style or whether it's been friend style. It's very fast, it's very colorful, and it's very quick to pick up. If you're interested, feel free to leave comments here below on the YouTube channel. We'd love to hear from you and see what you like or what you don't like. Of course, you can join in the discussion on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Google Plus by searching Crits Happen or at our homepage at critshappen.com. But until we see you next time, keep rolling those dice, and we hope they're all crits. Thank you.